Today, I'm going to talk to you about manipulation, and I'm going to teach you how not to get manipulated in your relationships. All right, Apex Underground pod class is in session, and we're going to talk about manipulation today. And we're going to do a deep dive, kind of a continuation from last week. So it's technically a part two. Last week, I talked about how manipulation kind of works and the differentiated between persuasion and deception and manipulation and what makes those things different. Because persuasion isn't necessarily a bad thing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to try to lead a social interaction or lead your relationships or, um, you know, kind of get somebody on board to what you're saying because you're considering their wants and needs and you're using persuasive language to do so. In the sexpionage course that is in progress right now, as well as with my mastermind group of guys that work with me for a year, we work on these skills and there's nothing unethical or bad about them. In fact, it lets you have better, healthier relationships. I mean, people talk about the key to having a good relationship is communication, but they never really talk about what that actually means. What communication, what does that mean? Just talk to each other. Well, you have men and women who speak different languages a lot of times and sometimes. And I got 10 is watching all my videos. Well, good, good. I appreciate that. And thank you, sir. Thank you, or ma'am, or whoever. Thank you, number 10. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, of course, throw them in the chat. On that note, and of course, doing a little super chat or something like that, make sure that they get noticed. Sometimes I get on a stream of thought and I'm not going to be looking at all of the, if it's a busy chat, I'm not going to be looking at all of it. And if you have a question, it might get missed. All right. A little super chat helps the algorithms. And it helps YouTube push things out because I often have difficulty getting my content out there due to censorship issues and things like that. So when you like and when you share, but also when you comment and when you super chat, that lets the algorithms know that, things are going good. And this is a great question. In fact, how to build trust after one partner cheats and lies. I will get into that in a second. What I'm going to do, though, is put this in the chat too, apexmindset.org. Okay, so sexpionage is closed right now unless you get in with an affiliate. So there's only a couple people who are affiliates and who can get in, or unless you book a call to do a year-long mastermind program with me, in which case all the sexpionage material will get included in that year-long program. So those are the only ways to get in. But I put apexmindset.org because there's a lot of free stuff on the email list, and there's an invitation to get into one of my communities for free. So want to get into community for free, at least to be able to see what's going on in the chat and be able to ask questions, things of that nature. It's right there for you. And the newsletter that goes out too has like actionable good stuff, not spam or anything. And so, yeah, so jump on there when you go to, it'll direct you on the page because it'll say sexpionage is closed, but click here to get into a community, and may send a questionnaire out where you fill out some information with your email list or email address, and that'll get you on the newsletter. So that's how we do that. There's also a link too, if you are interested in doing the year-long program with me, you can click that. The interview and session for that is free. It's not a cost to you to talk to me or one of my staff about doing that. And if it's a good fit, then we'll be glad to have you on board. So anyways, back to it. We'll actually get into this question. This is such a big question that would be like the topic for an entire show, really. When you do get on the email list, one thing that comes out is a guide to cheat proofing your relationships. So for free, you have a guide that is want to say 16 emails long worth of a guide that'll send you one part after another over the course of a series of a few weeks, and it'll tell you how to cheat proof the relationship both for yourself and for your other half. Okay. And so that's an important part of this, because there's a big myth out there that oh, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, it's coming. Whew. Anyway, there's a big myth out there that, there are good people and bad people, and there are cheaters and there are faithful people. Now, the reality is it's not true. Every person is susceptible to cheating, some more so than others. And what prevents you from doing that is the boundaries and standards that you have in the relationship. And so, some people, and the boundaries and standards you have for yourself, but the temptation to do so, anybody's susceptible or open to having that temptation. It's a human condition. And if it wasn't part of the human condition, then we wouldn't have such high percentages of people having cheated on relationships. I mean, it's well over half of people have cheated on another partner before. Okay, so it's something like 75% actually. It's like most people under survey admit to having cheated before. Now, it doesn't mean they're cheating on their current person or that they didn't learn from the cheating experience and wouldn't do it again. And maybe some of those were when they were young or right. We can give all the excuses for it. But the point is, if you have such high numbers of people who have done it, we can probably assume that it's not a character flaw. We can probably assume that the propensity to cheat on the person you're with is actually part of it's a feature rather than a bug. So it's not a flawed person that necessarily has the temptation to cheat. It's a person that does it, a human being. Okay. Human beings do it. Human beings cheat. It doesn't mean you should accept it. That doesn't mean you should take a person back after they do it. That's a whole nother conversation. And that doesn't mean that somebody should trust you or you should trust somebody else if they do it. But the first thing is to get rid of this idea that this person's somehow a bad person because they did it. Reality is everybody could do it, and most people have. All right. So when you understand that, then we can stop demonizing people for doing something that's not, no, it's wrong, but it's also part of our human condition. It's a drive. It's something that people are driven to do. And so when we understand that, then we can put controls in place so that we don't do it. Right. So that's the thing. If we can accept that, instead of, when you demonize people, it's like, well, they're good and bad people. There are cheaters and faithful and not, people. And so, like, you have to be a faithful person rather than a cheater. All right. Well, the problem with that is people then conceal what they're doing, conceal their desires, conceal their behaviors because they don't want to be a bad person and they don't want to be a cheater, and they want to be, appear to be faithful and appear to be good. And what they're not doing is facing the desires and behaviors and challenges that present themselves that would pull somebody into cheating to begin with. They don't address the mental paradigms that they might have that would put them into that category of maybe cheating, rather than, you know what I mean, to begin with. And so they're not addressing people. If you demonize people, then they're going to conceal their thoughts and feelings and behaviors rather than addressing those things and setting up, having a way of looking at things and having measures set up in place so it doesn't happen. So the first part about rebuilding trust is actively wanting, well, is first of all, you want to understand that this is something that can happen to anybody, and it's not, it's actually more normal to do this than not normal, which doesn't make it right or good, but it just means that, you know, demonizing somebody over it isn't going to help. Punishing each other over it isn't going to help. What is going to help is figuring out the reasons why that it happened and setting things up so that it doesn't happen again. So if, you're, how to rebuild trust ever, one partner cheats and lies. Well, if the one person is willing to tell the truth and not try to conceal and be shameful over it, but was willing to tell exactly what happened and be clear about it, and is also motivated to do things differently and set things up so that it doesn't happen again, and make some, we could say, concessions for things like privacy and stuff like that, in, so that in order to continue a relationship, the other person can see what they need to see. I mean, these are things that will all help rebuild that trust. If it's more of the same kind of stuff and same kind of behavior with no accountability and no willingness to do anything different, well, then nobody's going to trust that person. How could you trust somebody who says, yeah, I did that, that's wrong, but I won't do it again, and then that's it? There's nothing else. Like, no, the conditions haven't changed. Nothing's changed in order to, make that be true. If you have the same thing and if all the stuff is the same, then obviously you're going to be open to making the same mistakes, or your partner, because I don't know, your name is Dividend Gypsy. I don't know if you're a dude or a chick. So with your name, but the other person is or whether you or I don't know if you cheated or the other person cheated either. So whatever happened, but the other person in the mix isn't going to be able to trust anybody who just says, yeah, I did that and it was bad, but okay, so chick, all right, you're a dude, you're dealing with a chick, all right, and so did she cheat or did you cheat? That's another part of the question. If you don't mind answering that question, because that's a big difference too. Because there's differences, man, like with a woman cheating and a guy cheating. I know that the world likes to pretend everything's the same regardless of gender, because genders are all neutral now, but she cheated, all right, so will give me some better direction in this now. She cheated. Here's the thing. You got to figure out why she cheated. All right. So, and what the motivations were behind it. And she's not going to tell you. So you have to be able to figure out what those and suss out what those are. All right. And if she never truly took accountability for her actions, then she needs to be on the curb. All right. If she doesn't take accountability, which is like, women tend to be allergic to accountability. Not all women, but women in the United States, tend to be, a lot of them, a large percentage of them. Like, and I will say, to my girlfriend's credit, she has a lot of accountability, or else we wouldn't be in a relationship. But that's hard to find, dude. It's hard to find a girl with accountability in general. But if she's not willing to frickin', take accountability for cheating, for her actions on cheating, like, I mean, the chances of anything being any different moving forward are pretty much zero, dude. Like, it's zero. If somebody is, the only way you can change a behavior is if you take accountability for it, recognize that you fucked up, and then take measures to do different things in the future, and do things also in the present to set up the conditions a little bit different so the same mistakes don't happen again, right? Like, different things need to happen, or good for you. And you kicked her out last week. Good, and good. And that's where she belongs, kicked out. If a girl cheats on you, man, and she doesn't have any accountability, there isn't going to be, you made the right choice. It's still going to hurt because you have an attachment. Still going to feel bad. And because she cheated, it's an attack to the core of who you are, your identity, and your own sense of value. So it's even like worse than just a breakup, right? So it's going to feel like shit. It's going to feel bad. All right. That's goes with the territory, but you did the right choice, because trying to hold on to it and listen to her saying, oh, it's going to be fine and I won't do it again or whatever, but there's no accountability and there's no changes in behavior, you'll get the same thing. She'll either be continuing. I've seen these scenarios, especially like in marriages and stuff, because a woman will feel more trapped in a marriage, where a girl, she'll cheat, get caught, say, I'm sorry, go to counseling, go to church, while she's still fucking the other guy on the side. Like, I've seen, if I had a nickel for every time I've seen that scenario, she doesn't even stop fucking the other guy. You know what I mean? She continues the side relationship while she's telling the guy she's married to, I'm sorry, and let's go to counseling. Like, and so it's like that's how bad it can be. So like, if there isn't a genuine like accountability and change in behavior, you're not going to have different results most likely. If she's not going to cheat with the same guy, I mean, I don't know what the scenario is. There's that chance or strong possibility she'll do so in the future, or she'll want to and maybe resent you for being in the way, which I know sounds crazy, but that can happen, right? Is that she resents the guy she's with because he's in the way of her doing what she wants to do, even though what she wants to do is destructive and not good. And so, yeah, so you did the right thing there. That it's really hard for a girl to gain trust back in comparison to a guy. Statistically, when a girl cheats, it doesn't work more often than if the guy cheats. More relationships survive cheating when it's the man that cheats. It's just a reality, yeah, of course, man. That's what we're here for. I'm glad I could help. But and so talking about manipulative behavior, there's a lot of manipulative behavior that goes into cheating. But moving on, go make sure you're on that email list, get that cheat proofing guide, because that's going to help you for the next relationships you get into. It'll also help highlight or help you see really maybe where some of your mistakes were in this current relationship. You know what I mean? The fact is that you have to be able to insulate your relationships from cheating, or else cheating is very likely to happen, actually. And so, if somebody you're with is unwilling to do that, like you have certain boundaries and standards that you want for your relationship, and she's unwilling to participate in those boundaries or standards, that demonstrates that she is wanting, even if it's an unconscious thing, she's wanting to leave doors open, and she's wanting to at least have that freedom to, pull the new dick, out of the emergency bag. I don't know what fucking analogy I'm trying to come up with, but you know what I mean? Find the new penis. That's the game that she wants the option to play. And some of these standards and boundaries get in the way of executing that option. And so then a lot of times girls will manipulate, to bring it back to the topic, and shame or, chastise or say things like, well, wanting to see each other's phones or share passwords, that's a toxic thing for us to do if we're in a relationship. Really? Is it? I don't think it is. I don't think having transparency is toxic at all. In fact, that would be healthy. But a girl who says that is saying that mostly because she wants to be able to not be transparent, not have that accountability, if you will. And it doesn't mean she's cheating on you right there, or that she says she believes that she plans to cheat. She might really believe she's not going to cheat and might not plan to, but it's a resistance to that accountability to you as a man in her life that is a big red flag, and demonstrating, okay, she's not wanting to, she wants some part of that hypergamous brain wants to be able to pull that lever to find a new dick if she doesn't like the way things are going. That's not good. Don't commit to that. Don't be in that commitment, guys. That's a type of manipulation too that we're going to get into in today's topic, where she'll make you feel bad or stupid, or or insecure is the key word that they like to use for having these boundaries that would prevent cheating. You know what I mean? And it's not even like a boundary that you're saying she has to have that you wouldn't participate in either. And they will always go to an extreme in those circumstances. They'll always go to some extreme scenario that you're not presenting or doing. In other words, like, well, if you have the ability to go, if you have my password, or if you could just look through my phone, then that means that you're going to be toxic and looking through my phone all the time and making, creating drama and problems over, absolutely nothing. And you're going to text my, guys on my friends list or something and embarrass me. And like, it's like, hold on, none of those things are going to happen. Right. Wanting the ability to say, hey, we should be able to see what's in each other's DMs. And if we're not embarrassed about showing that with each other, then, that means we're doing the right thing. If we are, then perhaps we're not abiding by the right standards for our relationship. Like having that as a thing, that transparency, that's not a toxic thing, but she'll make you feel toxic for suggesting it. That's a manipulation. All right. What she wants to do is have all the freedom to do what she would want in case she wants to. And then she's, of course, going to then execute control over you, which is not good. All right. And would you be able to take a look at my inquiry as well? Maybe. What's your inquiry? Let's go back. Here we go. Another question. Is it true that as long as my girl is not dressing provocatively, wearing somewhat sexy clothes? Wait, is it true that as long as my girl is not dressing provocatively, wearing somewhat sexy clothes, isn't that bad, right? I told her not to act like she's on sale by wearing really short skirt. Okay. Okay, that's yeah. So the structure of your first question is a little confusing the way you structured that, but you're basically wondering if you're right. Are you reasonable for having this boundary? It's kind of what you're asking me. What I'm going to say about this is let's look at a couple things. First of all, let's look at the motivation why a girl does stuff. All right. It's really important to have that tactical empathy. This is why I teach this in this sort of thing, how to have that, because there's a lot of like red pill ideals about female nature that really are only one potential thing. Like, for example, the fact that wearing sexually provocative clothing could be signaling to other dudes, right? That's in that, and we could say hypergamy or whatever. That's only one potential thing. All right. And so if a guy is only stuck on that potential motivation as the only answer, she only wears short skirts in order to get dudes to want to fuck her. If that's the only reason she's doing it, then that's going to infuriate you and make you probably angry when you see her in a short skirt. You know what I mean? That's going to upset you. That's going to make you feel like if she walks out in a short skirt and doesn't, I'm going to blow this relationship up over this skirt right now. Yeah. And so that's where a lot of binary thinking and bullshit stuff happens. It's not to say that girls don't wear sexually provocative clothing in order to hook up with guys. We know they do. But another reason that they do it, though, and it's a bigger reason actually, is to compete with other girls. So she wants to be seen as sexually valuable in the sexual marketplace. She still wants to be seen as sexually valuable in the sexual marketplace, even if you are like the alpha male in her life. Even if she's happy with you, happy the relationship, she still wants to be seen as sexually valuable in the sexual marketplace. Why is that? It's not that she's going to want to be seen as sexually valuable to other men over you. That would be a different thing. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's that she wants to be able to compete with the other girls. So here's the thing. If she is sexually more attractive than the other females around her social circles, then that makes her more sexually valuable to you. If so by default, she makes herself more sexually valuable to you because she's more attractive than the other females in the marketplace. If she gets more looks from guys in the marketplace, that's a demonstration that she's more sexually valuable in the marketplace, which in her mind might translate more attractive to you. Even if you're saying I'm not comfortable with this, then that ends up turning into another discussion, which is about control, but we'll get to that. So like she wants to be competing in the sexual marketplace, even if she's happy with her guy, because she doesn't want, she knows and believes, even though it's different for girls and guys. Remember, women are solipsistic. So she knows, like, you as a guy, the more attractive you are to other women, the more attractive and higher value you will be to her. She will find, your girl in your relationship will find you more attractive when other women are attracted to you. But they're also anxious about that, have dread about that. So they might be angry and upset about that, but they're also, they get wet over that too, right? It's pre-selection. Pre-selection is such an important factor in sexual selection for a girl. So she believes and she knows that the more sexually attractive you are to other women, that's gonna give you more power in the sexual marketplace, and more power over her, because she's going to be more attracted to you. She'll find you more valuable, which could bring up anxiety for her, which is why a lot of, like, wives and LTRs try to, bring a guy's sexual value down, right? She tries to, dork him up a little bit, here, wear these dorky clothes, or, don't go to the gym, right? And so girls sometimes will sabotage a guy's efforts to looking good, because she doesn't want other women to want him, and because that's going to spark her dread and her anxiety and her jealousy. But also, if you're not attractive to other women, though, then she's not going to find you as attractive. I mean, that's the thing. Well, because she knows that inherently about herself, she wants to be attractive to the sexual marketplace, because she believes it's going to make you more attracted to her. Now, that's not always and not necessarily true, but there is a degree of it. Like, when it comes to status, you go out with your girl and your girl looks hot, you're perceived as higher status. Like, that's just the way it is. Especially in this simp ass world we live in, where guys just simp for women, right? So, like, you look of higher value when you're with hot women. We know this in marketing. Like, if you put a guy with a hot girl in marketing, everyone thinks the guy's got something. You know what I mean? Put the guy around hot girls for marketing. Even if the guy is paying for those girls, people buy that guy's shit and they think he's worth more. I mean, that's well established in marketing. And so your status goes up when she looks hot. You know what I mean? So, like, she wants to look hot and compete in the sexual marketplace. So that could be the motivation. All right. That's more likely the motivate. That's more often than not, the motivation is to look better and compete with her girlfriends than it is to try to find new dick. All right. Not always. Some girls go out to find new dick and they just are cheaters, and that's what they are. But most girls aren't necessarily trying to do that. But they do want to look good to compete with the girlfriends. They want to compete with other people. Now, their mental paradigm on what it means to compete is going to be based on their social conditioning. So if your girl has been socially conditioned to dress a little bit slutty in order to compete in the sexual marketplace to be seen as higher value, then she's going to wear the short skirt. That's a little bit too slutty, right, by your standards. And if you try to say, I don't like that because it makes you look slutty, then she's going to feel like you're attacking her for having those standards. She's going to feel like you're trying to control her. She's going to feel like maybe you're worried about her mate switching. So then she's going to worry about whether, there's all these things that happen, right? It's like fucking mess. So what you have to do is instill that idea that dressing in a short ass skirt or being too slutty is actually not competing amongst your friends. It actually makes you look less attractive, because there's some truth to that. Guys give attention to women for a number of reasons. First of all, guys give attention to women because they're fucking simps. All right. But take that aside. Guys give more attention to one particular woman over another for two reasons. One is that she's more attractive overall and less attainable, right? Number two is they'll put more attention to her if she appears more sexually available. So when a girl is not as attractive, this is why the 7 out of 10s tend to be sluttier than the fucking 9 out of 10s. Okay. The 7 out of 10s, all right, and the 6s know that in order to compete with the 9s and the 8s, in order to get more attention, they got to be sluttier. If they appear more sexually available, they're going to draw more attention from guys. So that's their way of competing. They're not attractive enough to compete amongst the 8s and 9s. Maybe they're a little overweight. Maybe they're a little bit, whatever it is, right? So they do, and you'll notice that. You'll notice that when you go out, like the ones that it's like the mid girls that really can put off that slutty vibe, right? And so that's one way of elevating herself in the sexual marketplace is through availability or the appearance of availability. That will get more attention from guys. But that doesn't necessarily make her of higher value, right? So more attention, yes. Higher value, not necessarily. So she might have more options if she were single because it gives her more attention, right? So a girl who's dressed a little slutty, who's a 7, might have an easier time getting a boyfriend than a frumpy 7 who dresses, plainly or something, right? But she's only having an easier time because she's drawing more attention. She's through her appearance of availability. She's not having an easier time because she's demonstrating higher value than the other women that are around her. Now, take a girl who's really beautiful and dresses well and sexy and nice, but respectably, right? Doesn't dress like a slut. Think of like some of your TradCon women types, right? But who dress well, and they look good, they take care of themselves. They present themselves as higher value because they're less attainable. And so when you're thinking of a female sexual strategy, you're a dude, but think about what would be better for a female to get more attention by being a slut or to get more attention by seeming less attainable and more beautiful than your peers. Every girl would say, yeah, I would rather be more beautiful and less attainable than making it look like I'm attainable to everybody, you see. and if I'm going to get attention, I would rather have it be the less attainable, more beautiful version of myself that gets the attention, not the more sexually available version of myself that's going to get all kinds of attention, right? And so that is something a lot of girls, they don't think about because right now the social conditioning blends all that shit together. There's no modesty anymore for most women. I'm not saying women aren't. There's plenty of modest women out there, but the values of modesty and sexiness are confounded with the the values of I should be free to be a slut if I want to. So it's a feminist the idea that says you should be sexually free, and if you want to be a slut, that's empowering. You go, girl. And if you want to wear whatever you want to wear, guys shouldn't look at you or disrespect you because you're an empowered woman, whatever. That's one narrative. But then the other narrative is like, well, yeah. So, but we all know that some level of modesty and attractive in an attractive way, and in a sexy, but respectable way is also attractive, right? So it just kind of all blends together, I guess. And then the social conditioning, it's like a lot of times a girl, I don't know how old your girl is, but a lot of times a girl fucking doesn't know any better. Like she thinks this is what she should be doing. She thinks she should be dressing a little bit whorish to go out to the club or to go, hang out with the girls. And then if you tell her, I don't like that, that's a no, what happens is she flips out because she thinks she's being isolated from the sexual marketplace, which means a death to her, essentially. So you don't want to make a girl feel like she can, because she's with you, she's not allowed to be in the marketplace in terms of her competitiveness. Like, in other words, she should be able to have social connections, right? You don't want to make her feel like she's cutting off social connections because she's with you. That's when girls freak out and they pull the insecure card and they say, you're bad, you're insecure for thinking I shouldn't wear this dress and this skirt and whatever, right? And they make it about you, and they get all upset and all fucked up over it because they think, you're being controlling and abusive. They'll abusively themselves say how controlling and abusive you are. That happens because they do see it as a serious threat, because think about the monkey brain again. Like, if we're in tribal times and you're her guy, right? And you get killed on a hunt, and everybody comes back from the hunt, and you're dead, you're no longer with us, and she relied on you for resources for her, for her baby she's about to have. Well, if she wasn't making friends and operating in the tribe and seen as a valuable tribal member, she could be ostracized. She could be without resources. She could be screwed. She could be dead, and her offspring and your offspring could be dead. So to not operate in the social environment and to not be able to compete even in the social environment is an existential death for a woman. Their mammalian brain, the monkey brain, sees that as really problematic. It's a problem for their survival, which is why women revolt when a guy tries to control that. Okay. So how do you combat that? You combat that by not making it about controlling her and not making it about, thinking she's trying to get new dick and that's why she's wearing a slutty outfit. All right. Make it more about, hey, you're in a relationship now, and this is going to be better for us, and guys are going to respect you more and respect me more and look at us better and look at you better, quite frankly, if you dress in a way that demonstrates you're in a relationship. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys are going to think you're available if you're wearing that. And I'm not. I think I think you're hot, but I think you're hot naked too. And I don't want you to walk around naked. So, I think you want to think about what you're doing here, because if you're wearing that, what message are you sending? Do you think guys are going to respect you and like you more, and girls too? Do you think people are going to respect and like you more if you're wearing clothing that says that you're kind of single and maybe sexy and sexually available, knowing you have a boyfriend? How's that going to go? Like, they're going to think, they might think you're a slut, or they might think you would cheat. And I don't think that's the message you're trying to send. So that's kind of the direction of the conversation, is just you say, you talk about what message we're sending, and you want to instill in your relationship that we want to send the right message to the outside world, and that's going to be sent differently between you and her. There's ways you're going to have to send messages to the outside world that causes the outside world to look favorably upon your relationship. And there's ways that there's things she has to do to the outside world that will cause that as well. That's part of protecting the relationship. So instead of just saying you look like a slut and you should change, okay, because that might not go over well, and that's going to hit the monkey brain all kinds of uncomfortable ways. Have a little, understand that she's not been conditioned to have the right behavior. If she had been conditioned and brought up to have better behavior, she wouldn't be wearing something that was sexually inappropriate to begin with, or sexually, we'll say, on the edge of boundaries to begin with. And so she just needs to learn something different. Now, that being said, though, that's all assuming that you're not being crazy. So make sure, and I don't mean to say that because I don't think you are being crazy necessarily, but you want to make sure that you're not just being overly sensitive and over mate protecting, because if you're mate protecting too much, that's going to make you look like a bitch. All right. And so you don't want to do that. Okay. It's bad for your game, and it's also bad for your own inner game and your own mental health. All right. So it's not about mate protecting. When you want your girl to present herself in a good way, it's about protecting the relationship and instilling a higher value and a higher standard of behavior. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? She's going to feel better about herself if people respect her better, think she's hot, but also respect her more because of how she presents herself versus thinking she might be available. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah. So, anyways, that was a lot on that. That was good though. Question. Really good questions today. So, really just turn this into a Q&A. So here we go. We got Sarah. I'm going to call Sarah out now. Married and still wearing provocative clothing because I can while other wives can't. I win. All right. Good. This is helps you, Sarah, help me here because she's illustrating exactly what I'm talking about. It's about competing with the other girls. Do you see what she just did? That she's talked about right there. She just proved me right without realizing it. Okay, not that you were trying to prove me right or wrong, but that's exactly what I'm in. And then he wins too. So see, this is exactly what I'm saying. It's not about her trying to get dick from other guys. It's about her wanting to compete with the other girls and wanting to look better than, like, want to be seen at a higher value than the other girls and as more attractive, more sexy than the other girls, which then he wins, right? Brings your status up and makes you look good, you look better. Now that's assuming when she goes out and you're not there, she still presents that she's got a guy at home and she makes that stuff clear that she's not acting single. That's assuming that. But I would say that I'm going to circle this word provocative. There's a way to look sexy and there's a way to look provocative and respectful. And there's a way to look provocative but slutty, right? And trashy. And so I'm assuming when Sarah says this, only because she listens to me, right? Of course, that she's going to wear something that is, more on the side of respectable, though also still sexy and all that stuff. Not necessarily wearing something that's going to make her look trashy or slutty or sexually available. And so those are the things, right? And that's what we want to look at. What message are we sending? Because if you're getting a lot of attention with your outfit because it's trashy or slutty, if you're getting a lot of attention and looks because people think you're sexually available, and those people are actually looking down on you when they know that you got a guy at home and a boyfriend. And if you're with a guy and they think you're trying to present yourself as available, you look like a trashy fucking girl, right? Who's open for business even though she's got a guy, right? That's not the message you want to send, so it's all good. Look sexy. Absolutely. Look good, but I would say, think about what message you're sending. And I'm assuming you're doing the right, you're sending a good message that's not overline or overboard, right? But you do whatever you want. I don't care, and also, like, as far as boundaries are concerned, with 10's question, your boundaries are up to you too. That's another point I need to make. Like, what I might think is, not, not that provocative or bad, might somebody in a different culture, somebody with a different idea or a different religious background might think that that's way overboard. You know what I'm saying? So, certain, like a Muslim woman, for example, might never be caught dead in some of the things that my girlfriend might wear, which is fine. You know what I mean? It's fine. My girlfriend can wear the things she likes to wear, and she looks really good. And she always asks my opinion on those things, and that's important to me. But some Muslim woman who wants to dress, more covered up and all that, that's her religious background, her beliefs. There's a difference in opinions there, and to each their own. So, like, your standards are up to you. You know what I mean? If you're like somebody's like a religious person, and if you're a Muslim man and you expect the woman that you're with to dress a certain way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, don't listen. Don't follow the bullshit that's out there that says that you are somehow an abusive, terrible, horrible man for wanting a Muslim woman to dress like a Muslim woman. Like, absolutely not. If you're a dude who's your religion's important to you and you happen to be, I'm using Muslim as an example because that's the most obvious overt one, but if you're a Muslim man and you have certain religious values, beliefs, and you want the woman that you're going to marry or be with to dress a certain way, then that is the standard for your relationship. And if a woman's not willing to do that, she can go be in another relationship, right? If a woman is okay with that and her values and beliefs line up, then she's going to be somebody who dresses in a way that matches the standard. So it's up to you guys what your standard is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, some I might think is a little bit too slutty for my girlfriend to wear. Like, maybe you and your guy love, like, that's what you're going to wear. As long as you guys are, feel that your boundaries are being respected, then that's fine. You know what I mean? That's up to you. I would just, once again, always ask yourself the question, what message am I sending out to the people around me? That's important because they're going to people will treat you based on the message you send. If I'm being disrespectful to my girlfriend, for example, and we're out in public, people will treat me a certain way. People are going to treat her a certain way. And those things aren't going to be favorable. And they're not going to be healthy or happy for my relationship. The social effect on your relationships do matter. So I'm going to be wary. I have my own standards and values, but I'm going to be wary of what that impression is going to be when I go out. So, like, take that into account when you're picking outfits and choosing those things. You know what I mean? Okay. All right. So I got about 10 minutes in this video to talk about manipulation. It's probably going to be a part 3. It's just turned into a Q&A. That's okay. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go through. I will go through. All right. How do you stop it? We're going to cut right to the end of what I would save till the end, but more or less, how do you stop manipulation? All right. So, and most of you guys, a lot of guys will on the one hand say like, oh, I'm not going to get manipulated or whatever they say. I just do this. I just be a hard ass. I'm a tough guy on the internet, right? That's what a lot of guys will do. But then what happens is in real life practical application, they're in a situation with a significant other because they are being manipulated and they don't realize they're being manipulated, or they get down a road and they've been, had their power taken away. They've lost frame. All these things happen. They feel guilty. They feel shame. They feel like they've done things wrong. Or they feel like their girlfriend is abusive and this and that and the other and terrible to them. And they don't know what to do about it. And how did it get here? Because you got manipulated. That's how. All right. So manipulation happens all the time. It's a pretty common and rather constant thing. And in relationships, the reason why that is the case is because relationships have a power dynamic. Okay, so there's a power exchange between two people if they decide to be in a sexual relationship. Okay, somebody is, and so there's a sense of power, and I say power in terms of influence that's being executed in in your relationship. She's influencing and executing power over you. You're influencing and executing power over her. Most problems and fights and toxic things that happen in relationships boil down to this power struggle, boil down to this power exchange, and there being a sense of not being able to get your needs met without having to overpower the other person in order to get them, and a sense of not being willing to give up the power that you need to give up, or being willing to execute the power you need to execute, one or the other. And there's flaws in that, and that's where these complications happen, really. And so these things really do boil down to power exchanges, and the way that women have power over men is through manipulation, okay, generally. And so where guys tend to have it more through coercion. All right. And I would say physical power, but it's 2024, so you're not going to club your girlfriend to death, right? This isn't tribal times. Okay. This is, you can't use violence, guys, and you shouldn't either. I would say that's a good thing. But that leaves you down to, using influence on each other. What I recommend as a male is that you use persuasion primarily, and then coercion as the consequence. So coercion is not threatening to, necessarily threatening to cause physical damage. That's not coercion. Coercion is, okay, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not going to spend time with you. I'm not putting time and energy into you. You're being unpleasant and difficult to be around. I'm not going to be around you. I'm going to remove that. We can talk in a healthy way because you're not stonewalling, but you're just not going to be around someone who's behaving out of pocket and not in a way that is conducive of what you're looking for, right? And so that's a kind of a form of coercion. You're causing pain in some way or removing pleasure in some way, which creates pain. So it's really using pain in order to get results. And I don't mean pain in terms of physical domination or abuse or some of those things like that. Although that's something that guys do default to and gets them in trouble, and it's not something you should do. Okay. But even if you're talking about soft nexting, I'm just going to say, listen, I'm not going to play this game and I'll call you in a few days. That's a coercive move. I'm not no moral judgment on it. It is what it is. And so that's where guys usually have their power, is through consequence that creates pain, whether it's emotional pain or whatever, or even logistical consequences in terms of divorce or something, or breakup, and then you're not paying for whatever you're going to pay for or something. That could be logistical, right? But usually it's emotional pain you're causing through because as a consequence, and that causing that pain doesn't have to be overt, like you're, name calling or something, right? And you're emotionally abusing, but it could mean that you're just removing your time and energy because of the way that she's behaving, and then that creates a sense of pain inside her, right? So that's your power, tends to be that, whereas hers tends to be manipulation, which means using words and communication tactics against you in order to create, an emotional state that would cause you to give your power up. All right. So leveraging her own emotions against you, or creating an emotional, consequence for you by, we'll say, manipulating your words and using communication and using manipulative language. All right. So that tends to be how a woman gets power over a guy when she's, unsure that she's going to get her needs met. All right. So how do you stop it? Well, you stop it, first of all, by building trust and instilling confidence. So the first thing, trust and confidence has to be there if you expect her to stop trying to protect herself and control everything. If she could have had bad experiences with men, and she's certainly been brought up to believe that you're a piece of crap because you're a man. All right. So guaranteed, you're a bad thing because you have a penis, and therefore, she doesn't trust you. All right. Your penis means you're not trustworthy. That's, unfortunately, in 2024, that is a framework that women have. It's very anti-male, very anti-masculinity, if you will, right? And so she doesn't trust you, probably. Even if she says she trusts you, add to that as much as she can trust a man. Okay. She trusts you as much as she can trust a man, which isn't that much compared to, I mean, for God's sakes, women are picking bears. All right. They're picking bears and not you. All right. Which illustrates that they don't trust you. They don't trust men in general. So they get in a relationship with you, they already fucking don't trust you. So you got to build and instill trust. You got to demonstrate. First of all, you got to pick a girl who is capable of being able to trust. That's already, that's already your first challenge. She might not trust you, but is she capable of trusting if the conditions are right? She's not capable of trusting and doesn't care to ever be capable of trusting. And if she's just kind of arrogant and controlling, don't be in a relationship with her. All right. It's a waste of your time. Okay. She's got to be capable to trust you. But if she has that capability, then what you're going to do is you're going to build trust. All right? That's the thing. She has to be able to trust you. And that doesn't mean because you always tell the truth and you're a good boy. In fact, telling the truth is very little to do with. I know it sounds crazy what I'm about to say. Telling the truth actually doesn't have that much to do with her ability to trust you. All right. If you lie about something consequential, sure, she's not going to trust you, but it has actually very little to do with that. It has more to do with her trusting your competence, your ability, and that you mean what you say, and trusting your standards. Like if you don't have any standards or boundaries, even if you are, always tell her the truth, she's not going to trust you, because you're not demonstrating that you're able to be competent and capable, and that if and nobody trusts somebody who doesn't have standards or boundaries in their lives. Like nobody trusts that person, because if you don't have standards or boundaries, that means that you'll change your mind or you'll bend as the situation changes. So if she's expecting certain behaviors and certain things from you, but the circumstance or environment changes, well, you're just more likely to bend with that environment. In that situation, you're less likely to stand on your principles and stand on your boundaries and your standards. And so if you don't have boundaries or standards with her, then she's not going to be able to trust that you're going to have them for yourself, and when you're in other circumstances. So that's the thing. You have to instill trust by being trustworthy. I'm not saying to lie and stuff, but I'm saying like how trustworthy you are, in that, in terms of lying or telling the truth. Like you got all these guys who are simps, right? Who will placate and cater to women, and women do not trust them. And they don't trust them because they lack leadership, they lack dominance, they lack a demonstration of capabilities. So you don't want that to be you. All right. Those all factor into her ability to trust you. And then you want to instill confidence. Why do I say that? A woman who has low self-esteem and whose weak level of confidence in herself is not going to trust herself and her decisions. And that's going to be somebody who will then fight you more often and try to manipulate you more often. And she's going to lie more often. A low confidence woman is more likely to cheat, is more likely to do all kinds of things, in order to create problems for you. You know what I mean? And so you want to instill that confidence. All right. So you want to build trust, you want to instill confidence. Next thing is elephant in the room technique. When she's doing something that's manipulative, all right, you want to be able to say, hey, listen, this is what is happening right now. That's where she's doing something. She's doing something. Where you illustrate, this is what's happening, And so that's what that is. Okay. You want to be able to, that's the elephant of the room technique. And so you want to be able to say, hey, look, in a calm, cool way, here's what we're doing right now. Here's what you're saying, this is what you're doing, and this is what's happening. And let's not do that. Let's do something different. All right. You want to be able to have a Luca conversation, which is where you listen, understand, seek clarity, and so in the elephant in the room technique happens during the clarity phase. She's talking, you're listening, you're understanding, and then you're saying, okay, well, here's what I'm hearing, and here's what this sounds like, and that's not something we want to do. So why don't we try this again? Okay. And so this tends to take that power away from these manipulation techniques. All right. And what it does too is it gives them a chance to become aware or to disagree with you. All right. So they might disagree with you and say, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, what is it that you are trying to do right now? Or what is it you are saying? And you can now get her to shift gears, maybe. All right. When you're listening and understanding her, that's giving her power, but in a good way, without giving up your power, essentially. All right. So you're empowering her without giving your own power up in a bad way. When you listen and understand her, and then when you then call out what it is with a clarity statement or saying, hey, this seems like this is happening right now. And then she goes, no, I'm not doing that. Okay. Well, what exactly are we doing then? Like what's the goal here? What are we trying to get to? Tell me about what's causing you to sort of go in this direction, or why do you feel this way? Like that then sort of disarms this manipulation. All right. And then the A is an action plan going forward. All right. Now, sometimes they are doing these tactics as a default because they don't have any other way, and they're not even aware that they're actually being manipulative. And that can happen too. And so when you illustrate that in that way, then that can be effective on getting her to see something she didn't see before. And the last thing is, having your boundaries and standards. All right. That means that at the end of the day, you're not going to accept the manipulative behavior, and you're going to have boundaries and standards and consequences for that behavior. If she's going to keep doing that stuff, it's not going to work out for her. And that's that simple. Because as I said last week, I'll say it again this week, if you have to the techniques have to stop working, or else she's going to continue doing them. Well, I'm at the end of my rope and the end of my time here, so I have to let you guys go. Have a wonderful Friday, and thanks for tuning in. We may have to do a part 3 because I didn't even go over all the tactics. Good weekend, guys. Take care.